isn't going to be the finger wag it'll sound like at the outset, but, Ben Kindel was always a good pick, and no one had any information to suggest otherwise. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins and Capitals will be playing tomorrow at PPG Paints Arena. That's a 7:38 p.m. face-off. Team will be back on the ice today for practice in Cranberry. A few new faces will be on hand as well. Sergei Murashov is coming up because Tristan Jarry went on IR. No idea what happened to him, but it had to have happened in that horrific third period in Toronto, which maybe actually helps to explain it. Dan Heinen and Ryan Graves will be back up. That's a first for both of them this season. Owen Pickering goes back. Justin Berzeau goes on IR. For those of you who aren't familiar with IR, you only know the term from football. It's just, it means almost nothing. It's just 7 days. In football, it's like the kiss of death. So anyway, Kindel, the other night, of course, scores twice in Toronto. And because it was against the Maple Leafs and the game gets shown to all of Canada, everybody up there gets to see him, which re-invites everybody to remark on his draft status, which was very much mocked by whatever it is that passes for the hockey prospects experts community. And it is a small community. And there's a reason for that. Hockey is very difficult to assess at the prospect level because the prospects are spread all over creation. And two, hockey's analytics remain in the Stone Age compared to their sporting peers. That's not a shot at analytics in general. It's a shot at hockey analytics. Baseball and now football are loaded with data, heavy, thick data beyond anything you could ever want. In hockey, although there's been some progress, especially in the area of actual possession versus measuring possession by the number of shot attempts, almost everything, certainly everything that gets put out to the public, is based on, shot attempts. So if you go back to when the Penguins selected Kindel, was 11th overall out of the Calgary entry in the WHL, the general reaction on social media from some of these self-purported experts was, oh my God, what a reach that is. Why did they do that? This was so dumb. All they had to do was take this guy who I had in this spot in my mock draft, and it would have been brilliant. Those of you who've been with me for a while know that I rained all over that the same day that it happened. Not because I thought Kindel was great, not because I thought Kindel was a fit for the 11th overall pick, only because I knew that I knew pretty much as much about Kindel as anybody else, which is to say, not a whole heck of a lot. So what I did, and this is a little bit malicious, but I'm not above that sort of thing, I went back through social media, through some of the same people who were commenting, people who are prospect experts. One of them refers to himself as the Assistant Director of Scouting / Head West Scout with McKeen's Hockey. He's calling himself a scout. McKeen's Hockey, for anybody who doesn't know, is a thing called, or that calls itself, Deep Hockey Prospect Coverage. And then it lists all of their various annual publications. So this person is calling himself a scout, which is probably not something you should call yourself unless you're actually a scout, meaning employed by a team. I'm not going to pick on the dude's name here. It's not like he did anything wrong in life. But back then, meaning in the time around or before the draft, I see that his assessment of Kindel is the physical tools or lack thereof will always be a concern to some degree. His hockey sense is excellent. He has a ton of skill. Sneakily great defensive player too. Keeps surpassing my expectations of him. That's not a terrible assessment. It's also not what we're seeing. And then, again, after this game airs, and everybody sees what Kindel is, like everybody, same individual writes, I was fortunate enough to watch Kindel play dozens of times when he was here in Calgary, and one of the things that impressed me the most was how consistently he'd make an impact. Shift after shift after shift after shift, he would always find ways to make something good happen. Again, a nice, fair assessment, not exactly in line with what was being forecast. In fact, not close to what was being forecast, either by this individual or by any of these other outlets who pretty much just kind of follow each other and try to make sure that all of their various mocks look somewhat similar, so that if anybody looks stupid, it'll wind up being everybody that looks stupid because, oh, wow, we all had it wrong. He surprised everybody. There's another guy, not to just pick on the one, who's with Elite Prospects. He did a mock draft back then. By the way, he gave himself a title too. Director of Film Scouting. This is his title. Like, he's probably got business cards for this and everything. He had Kindel going 18th. Same guy posts, and this was just yesterday. I've had at least 3 teams text me to say that Ben Kindel at that spot was not even close to a reach. That all 3 of those teams were like, if we were at that spot, we would have taken him there too. Yeah, they're all texting this guy with the fictitious title. Listen, my point here, obviously, since I didn't even mention their names, is to point out, take the hockey draft/prospect analysis with, wow, I don't even know what the proper terminology for this would be. Not a grain of salt, but entire like barrel of Mortons that you'd be chugging, because there just isn't anywhere near the expertise that there is in, say, football or baseball for only about 1 billion reasons. So at least you can have some comfort in knowing that the next time the Penguins make a draft pick, if people tell you it was an awesome pick, they might be completely wrong. If they tell you it was a terrible pick or a reach or all this other stuff that these people were trying to tell you just because they have no idea what they're talking about, remember that as well when we come back, J1Q. Now, you know what? I'm going to keep going with this because I found, while I was setting up for the J1Q segment, some other stuff here. These are quotes from the time that the Penguins took Kindel. ESPN, I don't even know who they have doing this for them. There's no name attached to this. Called Kindel somewhat of a surprise at number 11. Again, just falling in line with their peers. And saying that the potential exists for Kindel to be a top 6 NHL player. He's more likely to find himself in the middle 6 as a complementary piece. His ceiling is second-line center. Bleacher Report had him picked as the 20th best player in the class. Here's a brilliant assessment from that one. His decision-making will hopefully mature with time. Yeah, you watch this kid and think he lacks decision-making. Like, it would take you 5 minutes of observing him. And this same bit of brilliance says that they'd like to see him improve his shot. Yeah, his shot's a real problem for him. Someone from what's now the New York Times gives the Penguins a C grade on the pick, saying that Kindel... The pick seems aggressive on a small winger without elite skating, so they also got his position wrong. Anyway, I do have a J1Q here. It comes from Chad. He says, Sidney Crosby -3, Evgeny Malkin -2, Brian Rust -2. They took the third period off, and that's the game right there. Mike Sullivan's system has been a big issue for this team over the past few seasons, but these players are as much to blame. As much as I love them, they are part of the issue when it comes to breakdowns, like the game in Toronto. Aren't they? Well, nobody was any good in the third period. We can start with that. I didn't see Gino earning any minuses. I was not at all happy, however, with the Sid line. I thought in particular Rust really struggled defensively. Philip Hollander might have had his worst period yet in the NHL. I didn't see anything egregious from Sid, but I also didn't see, Sid turning around and firing it past his own goalie or anything insane like that. I mean, it was a bad period. It was a really bad period. I wouldn't take it and extrapolate it into anything just because it made you mad. It should have made you mad. It should have made everybody mad. No one more than the participants themselves. But to take that one period out of 14 games and start bringing up things from the past few seasons and whatever. Look, I know it had a familiar feel to it. I know seeing breakaways and 2-on-1s and 3 goals on 4 shots and huge blown leads had the past 2 seasons in particular written all over them. I also know that that period was the only one even remotely like it in any category you'd choose through these first 14 games. But then what do I know? I'm not a self-declared scout. I appreciate hearing from you, Chad. I promise I won't have another episode like this in a while. I just needed to get that one out of my system. We'll meet up here again tomorrow.